Hey fellas, how you doing? It's Johnny. I wanted to make a video for you today because I know this is going to help you. And this video is going to be covering how to become socially confident. So obviously if you've got social anxiety, or if you're at different stages of having it, you might not have it that bad, but you still got it. Or you might have it really bad. Or you might just want to get more confident with people and women. So I'm going to call this the practical and the spiritual. These are two things that I've learnt myself, and I learnt them over the course of maybe 5 years. As you know, if you followed me already, I used to teach pickup, I used to teach day game, I used to teach men how to go out and meet women on the street. I did that myself for years. I did it from age 22 up until, I can't remember now, 22 to maybe 31, 9 years, something like that. So it's interesting for me because I had social anxiety before I got into learning how to meet women. And obviously I got much better with it, especially when I started to teach men how to pick women up. But I never actually realised that it was still there. It was still there under the surface. I mean, I didn't have it. It was easy to go and teach men because they were interested in the same thing as I was, and they were coming to me for me to teach them how to meet women with strategy, with manipulation, learning how to say the right things at the right time. But when I went back into my social life in different social situations, I felt really anxious. I felt really uncomfortable, if that makes sense. And with family, with meeting new people that wasn't into going out and meet women and pick up artistry and day game, and there wasn't my friends, and there wasn't my students. So I kind of felt like I didn't know what to say, and I couldn't use day game on men or old ladies, do you understand? Or even women that weren't in that social situation. Does that make, I hope I'm not confusing you. So if I got introduced at a party, or I went to my cousins, and you're meeting, it doesn't make sense. It would be rude. So I started to get confused, and I started to feel incongruent. I was like, well, I'm one person when I teach day game. I'm the same kind of person when I go out and I meet women, because I always usually meet women, so you're meeting one woman at a time, and I got very good at that. And I could go on a date, I could sleep with her. But when I come into the normal world, because day game meeting women is kind of like, it's like a mini reality, I don't feel fully comfortable with myself, and it's strange. And then I can go and do public speaking in front of 50 people, 60 people, if it's about day game or meeting women, because that's what I was passionate about at the time. But if it came to maybe doing public speaking about a different topic, I'd probably be frightened to death. So I started to realise I had complex social anxiety. For me, there's not much difference in a sense to when I had severe anxiety. Well, I suppose actually that's not true, but I had complex social anxiety. So I only seemed to be really comfortable around other people that did day game, or other people that are interested in meeting women. So for a while I just ignored it. I just thought maybe I'm looking into things too much, over-analysing things. What difference does it make? At least I'm with people that are the same as me and I'm interested in. But it really started to affect me later on. It really started to affect me with my family, because I was changing anyway. I'd made massive changes to become Johnny Berba at that time. So my personality was already changing. It was getting quite uncomfortable around my mum and my dad. I felt like I didn't know what to say. I felt uncomfortable socialising with them. Then when I started to take my girlfriend out, who I'd met from the street, obviously, if you want to call it day game, so be it. When I'd go out of her into maybe a party, I'd feel the anxiety there. So that I'd be at a party, it might be a networking event or someone else's party. A few people would know me, obviously, because they know me from YouTube, but other people didn't know me. I'd feel nervous, I didn't know what to say. It's a strange feeling, because it's like, I'm a confident guy, I go out on the street, I meet women, I teach other men how to do it, but here I am struggling in a social situation I shouldn't really be struggling with, and I'm a confidence coach. But it started to make sense. I realised that I'd got confident in one domain. I'd got confident when I was in control, because I was going out running up to women And I knew what to do. I was professional. I knew what to say. I could read the social cues. I knew when they were interested. I knew how to sleep with them. It actually started to slowly create low self-esteem. And then I started to get depression. And this happened over a course of time. It didn't happen in 1 year. It happened over the duration of maybe 3 years. And then I started to speak to a few other people that did day game, and they had the same sticking point. And some of my later students or earlier students said the same thing. They could go out, they could get a number, they could sleep with a woman, but they couldn't have eye contact with their mum or their dad. Or they felt anxiety around their friends who didn't do day games. So I started to realise that it makes complete sense. It wasn't me over-analysing. And this is because you're not congruent. You're not yourself, or you're not the same self of everyone. The reason is, you can't be your same self. You can't speak to people like that, because how you speak to them on the street, if you really be honest, it's rude. Yeah, some women are attracted to it. Of course, it's a numbers game, and you're going to attract those type of women. But you can't speak to your mum and dad like that. You can't speak to your brother's wife. You can't speak to new people like that, because they'll probably tell you to fuck off, because it's rude. The language is rude. And I didn't want to first realise it, because when I first started realising it, my ego was fighting, because this is what I did for a living. This is what I taught. And I enjoyed it. Why would I want to take something away that I enjoyed? So I'm not saying if you want to do day game. It's your choice. If you want to go out and meet women on the street, I'm saying you can become the same person everywhere. And you can meet women on the street, you can meet them everywhere, you can be the same in your family. That's congruency. So that's the practical. So I'm not saying you don't go out and meet women. I personally don't do day game no more. I don't believe in it and I don't teach it. But if I'm walking down the street and I see a girl and I really want to speak to her, I'll talk to her. And I'll be honest and I'll see where it's going to go, but it's spontaneous. There's no agenda, there's no tricks. I'm going to be the same person. I speak to someone where I'm staying, the same person. Speak to mum or dad, same person. Obviously you adapt, but you adapt through your true self. And you don't use tricks and routines. And I started to realise that most of my personality was made up of day game techniques and routines. And it was suppressing my true self, all my spontaneity. Emotionally, I didn't feel aligned. Like when I do this video now, I feel completely aligned with what I'm saying, what I'm living, what I'm thinking. I'm my true self. So if I go switch the camera off now and I go out and speak to a girl on the street, I'll keep that alignment going. I'll be the same self. Does that make sense? And it doesn't mean you can't attract a woman. It doesn't mean that you are a nice guy. It doesn't mean that you're boring. That's completely not true. It's completely opposite of what a lot of men think. So, as I said in this video, I'm about teaching you how to overcome social anxiety, be socially confident and get good with women. I've made this work. And it's actually, this has been more powerful for me than learning the day game, because you're just learning to speak one language in a domain on the street. But when you come off the street and you're back into reality, and you're on the train, you're on the bus, got a job interview, maybe you're a businessman, you're networking with doing business, people have never heard of day game. You can't speak to people like that, because it's rude, you know. How you chat up a teenager or a girl and you be flirty and funny, fair enough, but you can't really do that on new people. Everyone's different. Do you understand? So I'm talking about congruency. So where does the spiritual aspect come in? This is what I learned from my mentor. The spiritual aspect is working inside, working on things like jealousy, especially jealousy. Jealousy was something that I kind of knew I had it, but I never knew I had it really strong. I never felt jealous when I was teaching. I had no reason to be jealous. I loved helping people. When I got them good with women, it made me feel good as well. When they got results, I felt good. But in my personal life, I had a lot of jealousy. The more cheating I was doing, and I was doing cheating at the time, sleeping with different women, it was growing jealousy. And it makes sense, because jealousy is a lack of trust, lack of self-trust, envying other people. And I guess at the time, maybe I was jealous of the fact that I couldn't fully be myself. I couldn't be the same person in everywhere. So I felt a bit like a fraud, felt like a phony. I started to get voices saying it, and to some extent you are, because you're in a persona. So, working on the jealousy, Eckhart Tolle's teaching, or Jeff's teaching, where you develop an observer. The observer is the part, we've all got an observer. It's the part of us that is the spirit. It doesn't speak, doesn't have personality, it's the authentic self, it watches. Most people who don't practice it don't even know they have an observer, maybe on a conscious level, but we all have an observer. and we could develop one. So as I'm doing this video now, speaking to you from my authentic personality, I can feel my observer in the background. It's quiet, it's just watching, it's just still, it's just there. So if you, basically what the practice is, it's not saying not to have jealousy. Everyone has jealousy, you're human, but it's saying if you feel jealous, you observe jealousy, but you don't identify with jealousy, or you'll become, it will possess you, you'll be a jealous person. So if you're, let's say for example, you're out, you go to an event, maybe you see a guy who's got a really attractive girlfriend, and you feel jealousy, it comes up, you feel that feeling of jealousy towards him or envy. You observe it, but you observe it as separate to who you truly are. This is actually a very rewarding practice, and it takes incredible amounts of courage to first start doing it, because it means looking at everything in yourself that you're probably not comfortable with. Then you start to be able to refrain from jealousy quickly, change the emotion, and what Jeff would say, align yourself back to your true self. After doing this practice consciously, because if you start practicing at the start, you're probably a lot of jealousy, you'll notice that your jealousy will naturally start going down, and your observer will naturally start observing that part, and you know, what's the word, I'm just trying to get the word right, it will start to just ignore it, push it away, and then you start to grow your authentic self, and the authentic self and the observer is love. Tolly would say awareness, presence, awareness of the love that's in you and around everyone else. I know it sounds a little bit lovey-dovey, because when I first thought that when I heard about it, but I practiced it for 2 years. It's the most powerful teaching, one of the most powerful teachings, and I think it's the teaching, a lot of it stems from what Jesus said in the Bible and other spiritual teachers. So you practice with the jealousy, then you practice judgment. If you feel judgmental towards people, anger, it's the same practice. If you feel angry, because I used to get a lot of anger. It's interesting, I'm a lot more calmer now that I'm congruent as opposed to how I used to be. And this is when I was doing a lot of the day game, and I was sleeping with lots of women. I had so much anger in me and rage, I couldn't understand it, even though I was having a lot of sex. I wasn't always angry, but I was angry more than I should have been. And obviously I've said it in my other videos, my anger was coming from past issues with abuse and trauma. I've talked enough about that now, I'm kind of bored of talking about it, but it was coming from the past. So I went and healed the past, went and confronted my dad, which I've spoken about. These things all add up to getting you more socially confident. So stuff like feeling ashamed, embarrassment, you can practice observing but not identifying. So, and just to come back to what I was saying in regards to becoming socially confident and getting good with women, everything I'm saying in this video is how to get good with women. So you start realizing that you don't need a method, you actually get confident to lose all methods. If you're using methods on people, you're not honest. Even if you think, well, the method's got good intentions, I read it in a book, in my experience, my understanding, any tricks or manipulation on people, it's not honest, it's not congruent, there's an agenda. Now, I think for most people, and I understand this myself, when you're first learning something, whether it's how to do business, how to attract women, how to make friends with people, maybe part of the unconscious is thinking, well, if I don't have an agenda, how am I going to get what I want? If I don't have an agenda, how am I going to sleep with a woman? Or how am I going to get a girlfriend? How am I going to get a woman attracted to me? I understand that is a very Western way of thinking. That is a very today's man way of thinking, today's woman. And I thought like this, but I've tried the other way. And you'll get those things, you'll get them naturally. And when I say that, you're probably thinking, well, how long is that going to take? I need it now. It will happen as quick as you work on it. And you'll start becoming, and I've said it in my elder videos back, you'll become a naturally attractive man. You will attract women naturally, believe me. This stuff is far more powerful than the older stuff, the day game. That's why I changed, that's why I stopped doing it. Because I realised it wasn't who I was. It was something I did, it definitely helped me, can't dispute that. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for it. But you know, I've got a right to change my mind, and I can just see now that I've changed, how wrong it was for me. And I didn't like the way I was treating people, and now I do like the way I'm treating people, and of course I like myself more. So this is everything that I teach on my 6 weeks program. I teach people the practical side, which is to speak to people. You have to speak to people. Being spiritual or being congruent is not speaking to women. I never said that. People take things to the extreme. Because I said stop doing day game, I never said stop speaking to women. I said stop using methods and techniques. Stop using rationalization, stop using tricks, be congruent, be straight. I'm telling you, women are not used to it. Most men that you're going to meet, or most women, most people, and this is not a judgment, an observation, are not congruent. Most people don't know who they are. Most people are using manipulation because we've been taught this. I had to unlearn this. And I can't tell you how refreshing it is when you speak to everyone the same. So, same Johnny Berba on the video, same Johnny Berba if I teach you in person, same Johnny Berba on Skype, same Johnny Berba when I go and speak to them, when I go on a date. It is a completely different frequency. It's a completely different vibrational state. And everyone can get there. This is not, in a sense, it's supernatural, but it's not. And deep down, I always knew this. And when I was doing the day game and going out constantly to meet women, that I did have periods where I did tap into this authentic self, but I wasn't really know what I was doing. And it usually happened when I was not expecting nothing. I wasn't consciously going out to get laid. I may have been going down somewhere, seeing a girl, or in a situation where we're both in a shop, girl speaks to me, and then I haven't got time to do methods. And then that's when I go, that connection was amazing. So your connections are going to be better. You're going to connect with yourself. It's even hard when I explain this. If you haven't experienced it, I'm just using words. You have to experience it. So, what is the practice of congruence? How do we get socially confident? How do you get good with women? You practice what I'm doing now. You practice it in your daily life. So when you come out of your house, and this is a mistake I think most day gamers make, and I made it, and I still make it sometimes, you don't ignore everyone. You don't go, okay, I'm going to ignore him because he's just my next door neighbour and he's not attractive. Oh, that's just a homeless person. Or that woman's not attractive. Oh, there's a pretty girl, let me speak to her. I promise you, if you do that, try it. If you keep doing that, you're going to develop low self-esteem. You're going to be nervous around people, and you're going to objectify people, and you're going to find it very difficult to attract these type of women. So if you want to get the balance right, speak to people, and then speak to women, speak to everyone, get good with everyone. Because if you're not comfortable with men, and you're not really comfortable with people, you're not going to be comfortable with women. It's impossible, it makes no sense. And I was like that myself, so I'm speaking about how I used to be. So you can get good through strategy. Yes, the day game can work. You can pick women up, you can sleep with them, but you're never going to have that good relationship with them. You're not going to like you, because deep down, and your awareness, your observer, it will tell you that. You can't trick the authentic self. The ego can play games, it can design personalities, it happens to all of us. But the more you start developing your authentic self, the more you cannot be under the control of the ego, because the ego will always lead you to bad things. It's always done that to me, and it's still a daily battle for myself. I still have to work on this. It is still a struggle, but it's a good struggle, and the rewards are evident in my life. And this is what I've been teaching on the 6 weeks program. This is why I've said to the guys, I can take you out, but it's not as powerful. Why would I teach you something that is second rate to what I'm teaching now? It's got me better. Then when I take people through the process, they see the difference. Because most people think that, well, I have to run up and down the street to get on a date. And I say, you don't have to do that. You don't have to actually just go out on the street. You can become sociable everywhere, and you will get dates. I'm telling you, you'll get more dates. You'll have women starting conversations. It happens to me all the time. And it happens to loads of the guys I've mentored. They'll go through this process, they'll change, they'll become confident, they'll work on the jealousy, angers, they'll start being more sociable, they'll practice being the oneself, they will get on dates. I'm telling you, women, and I mean this in a respectful way, and men, people don't even understand what they're attracted to, but they will be pulled towards you. I'm telling you, my mentor said the same thing to me. I said the same thing to myself. I said it back to my mentor. I said to Jeff, I don't even understand this, but I do understand it. I said, everywhere I go now, it's different how it was before. People want to be around me, want to speak to me. When I was doing the day game, it was like I had to make a lot of effort. I had to go out and do it and then draw people in, or I had to get into state. But this is like a permanent state. And this is actually, it's still getting to state, but you are the state. You're the state within. Does that make sense? And you still speak to people. I went to an event a while back, An event like this would have made me nervous. It was a spiritual event. I loved it. I felt comfortable because of this work I've done. So you become more sociable. Does that make sense? Since I stopped doing the day game, I became more sociable. Speak to more people. Speak to loads. Speak to women. Speak to men. And better relationship with yourself. So this is applying the spiritual and the practical. Remember what I said, the practice is the oneself. I don't care if you're anxious, if you're shy, if you're stuttery, practice that oneself. I'm telling you, listen to me, trust me. That oneself will start becoming really confident. This oneself talking to you now, you wouldn't have recognized me a couple of years ago. If you met me and you didn't know that I did day game, you didn't know about Johnny Berba, you wouldn't have recognized me. I've completely changed. I was anxious, I was in my head, I was overthinking too much. I just wasn't in alignment with who I truly was. And women feel the difference. You won't have to do too much. As soon as you say hello and you're feeling good and you're honest, people see it in your eyes, you can see it in someone's eyes. I can usually tell in someone's eyes if what they're saying is sincere within a conversation. But as I said, it's not about over-analysing every situation. That's not healthy. This is actually pulling you into the present moment. So, I've spoken about presence. Excuse me, get this cough off. I've spoken about presence in other videos and I'll talk about that. But I just want to simplify is to be sociable with everyone. You'll get better with women. First thing most women will say is, they'll ask about your family when you meet them, they'll ask about your friends. Women are attracted to sociable men. Even if you want to use a scientific a standpoint, it makes sense scientifically, they want to date someone who is desirable to other people and who is sociable. The more sociable you are, obviously the more opportunities you have in life. And there's just something attractive about it. And even if you're a natural introvert like myself, you don't have to be the loudest person in the room. As a matter of fact, if I go into a busy room, I don't like to be centre of attention, because I'm like that when I teach, but this is still makes what I'm comfortable with. So whether you're introvert, extrovert, this applies to everyone. And in this, even if you're already socially confident, you can't outdo this practice, or it's not like a video game where you've clocked it. You can always learn more. And I still need to practice this more myself. I need to remind myself I always have better, happier days when I'm more sociable, especially if you spend lots of time at home or you're a logical person and you're in your head a lot. You have to get out of your head and then you come back to yourself by speaking to other people. And I'll tell you why this gets you better with women. I'll tell you straight. Because you have better social skills. And the social skills is congruence. There's a difference between good social skills and being congruent, comfortable with your personality, then using techniques that will, yes, they will get a woman attracted, they will work on some women, I'm not disputing that, but it's not you, it's not your authentic self. So there's like an abandonment of the self, the true self, for a separate self that's going to attract a woman, and that separate self is going to probably attract her separate self, and then you've got an incongruent relationship. It makes complete sense, like a puzzle, isn't it? So what you want, you have to put out. So if you put out day game techniques, or any techniques, a lot of the stuff that's being taught in personal development industry, like NLP, techniques, tricking people, hypnotizing them, you're going to get that back. Now, if you want that, if you want the day game, do the day game. Maybe you have to go through that and you have to learn to get the realization I got. If you don't want to go through that and you want to become sociable with your family, with your friends, you want to get a girlfriend, you want to get more comfortable around women. And I've said before, there's nothing wrong with having a laugh or flirting with women. If it's from a true place, there's nothing wrong with that. And I said there's nothing wrong with doing the day game, but I just don't find it honest. It wasn't honest for me no more, and that's why I don't teach it. And it was detrimental. It was giving me social anxiety. So if you want to do that, you do that. But this is what I've learned, and this is why I changed my teaching. And primarily, most of what I do on the 6 weeks program now is helping people with the psychological, spiritual aspects, jealousy, addictions, whether incongruent, and people are. When people first come to me, they are incongruent. They're different personalities with everyone. They're doing things that they don't enjoy. Because what happens is separate personalities will steer you in the wrong direction. A separate personality will say, I've worked with students and they'll say, I had a prostitute last week. And I'll say, well, I clearly can't judge you because you know about my past. You know in the past that I slept with prostitutes, but I don't do that anymore. And that's what you're here for. We're here to stop this. I'm here to help you. And we're here to find out what's making you do that. What's the cause? What's the solution? The solution is obviously to stop and find a replacement, because that's fear. That's coming from insecurity. So we replace fear and insecurity with love. Then people will say, I'm getting jealous all the time around friends, or I don't trust my friends. We have to find out where that's coming from, because again, that is another separate self. A separate self that is projecting, and you've designed it yourself unconsciously to protect you from your true self. My teaching, my 6 weeks program, is about growing the authentic self and killing or reframing from separate selves.